Welcome everybody to the big show. Today we're going to talk about how to build a team of top dogs. Best in show. How do you do that? How do you build a team like that? There's also some fun stuff in the news. I talk about a recent service experience that I had and much, much more coming up on this edition of Service Drive Revolution. Let's remind everybody really quick that our coaching meeting in April, so this is for clients that are in coaching, we have the unreasonable hospitality customer service training, plus some other fun stuff that will be going on. But if you have not RSVP'd for that, make sure you do because it's filling up fast. And maybe even by the time you're hearing this, it might be full.
Yeah, it's bordering on really, really close to full. You know what that all reminds me? I was walking to work the other day, and I stopped at the store because I'm like, you know what I need? I need some new camo pants, but I couldn't find any.
Camouflage joke. Nothing funnier than a camouflage joke.
Let's start it off with a little camo.
Speaking of camo, blue camo, we have somebody coming up on the podcast that does electronic license plates.
Oh, yeah. I'm kind of excited about this.
Did you see it online?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to do before we had them on was I wanted to try it. Because I don't know.
It was smart.
We don't do sponsors. You know,
right.
If something's good, it's good. But so I tell them, like, hey, I want to let me buy one. Like, I don't want you to give it to me. Let me buy one.
Don't want to be in the O column. I understand that.
The whole thing. So I had an interesting experience, and I would like to ask you a question. How many service managers out there want more customer pay work, but it's right under their nose?
All of them.
Yeah. So let me tell you about the story. So he says to me, what kind of car do you have? I tell him I have a Rover. And he says, oh, the one by my house is one of their dealers that puts these electronic license plates on. And so he literally makes me an appointment 2 days later. Like, the service manager calls, and so it ends up being very close to where I lift in the morning. Okay. So,
great. So it's easy.
My appointment was at 7:30, but I just left the gym at like 6:55 and went there, and I was there at like 7:05. I pull in. They do the system where they have the greeter do the walk around.
Yeah. So the pictures.
The advisor never has to leave their desk.
Right.
There's just that guy just standing there, like everybody comes to him.
Nothing says connection like come to me.
Yeah. So eventually the guy gets to me and writes me up. He informs me that I have a recall. On my thing. So he adds that to the repair. So I'm getting the license plate and I'm getting the recall done. Okay. I tell him, I said, hey, and this was funny because he was kind of a little bit of a smartass. I go, hey, if anybody tries to discount this RO, please don't let it, like, I want to pay full price. And he says to me, sir, that's the only way we do it. And I was like, okay, but there's a pretty good possibility that somebody's going to call you and try to take care of the bill. Do not do that, right? Because they're coming on the show, like,
right.
It's a whole thing. They kind of offered that, and I was like, no, I'll pay for it. Just let me experience it like it is, but I'm not looking for any sort of handouts. But he said, sir, that's how it is, but whatever. So then, by the way, that's my Winston, my Rover, has been in there a bunch of times. First time I ever took it in. So it's never been me that takes it in. Somebody else takes it in. What do you think? So last time I got the wrong video inspection.
Yes, you got a old Jaguar inspection for your Rover. Yeah, I remember.
So, and I okayed the work.
It's my favorite part of that story.
But it wasn't it was a different car. It wasn't my car. This time, what do you think I got?
I'm going to guess they didn't call you. They called who took the car in last time.
No, you'd be wrong.
Oh, okay. That's great news.
So I knew going in, you know how I was parking on the sidewalk here for a while?
Yeah, I'm aware.
Ends up that scratches your tires. So I have bubbles in both of my right side tires and somehow the left. So the tires are shot.
Okay.
They have cuts in them. They have a bubble in the sidewall. They are dangerous.
Supposedly built for the off-road, but
no,
not so
that's
much.
A city car.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know going in, not only is the rim scratched, but I need 4 tires.
Yep.
And it's probably close to time just mileage. But the sidewall, the most dangerous part, is not good. How do you think my video inspection went?
I'm going to say they didn't say a word about it. That's my guess.
Didn't even get a video inspection.
Oh, even better.
Nobody said anything.
Right. Why would they?
And I wanted to. So here's the dilemma in being me. Is I really wanted to have the tires done, and I almost said it right up, hey, could you throw 4 tires on it and do an alignment? And then I thought, no, just wait and let's see if they recommend. Because the rim is scratched. It should have an alignment. It's been a couple, that thing's a couple years old. It hasn't had an alignment. No video inspection.
After they did one last time on the wrong car.
On the wrong car, yeah. I never have seen a video inspection on my car.
Yeah.
But I've okayed a lot of work.
Except the work that you really need. Oh, my good Lord.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a shame.
4 tires in an alignment. Lay down. Now, do you go back to the dealer or do you go to a tire place?
I don't know if I'd give that dealer a shot.
Yeah, so that's my story.
I'm sorry that happened. Did they try to discount it anyway?
Discount what?
The plate thing? Or did he stick to it?
Well, I ended up paying the full amount. I don't know if...
Nobody tried to make any calls?
I'm not sure, too, if the guy knows who I am, honestly.
Yeah, not everybody knows.
No. He said, like... Oh, it's great to meet you, Mr. Collins. I've written up your car a bunch of times and I've never met you, but I don't know that he knows
what you do for a living.
That I'm talking about him.
Right.
Nice guy, though.
Well, that works.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Is there anything fun in the news?
Okay, so this is important. Just be any of you fans of Nissan. Nissan launches a new business plan, and it says expect a broad-based product offensive, which is funny because I believe that some of their products already are offensive.
Like what?
Never been a big fan of like the Rogue, the Kick, the Sentra, the Leaf. Not a big fan of the Leaf either. They're discontinuing the Maxima, which was my favorite car. So, I don't know. But new 3-year business plan. It's called the ARC, aiming to reduce operating costs and improve competitiveness worldwide. New plan was to bridge Nissan's next business transformation plan, going from 2020 to 23, and now they're trying to get to 2030, where they're going to hopefully get to a high level of profitability as their goal. So... I don't know. I just feel like their last few plans, not so good. Although, when I looked at numbers for 2023, they were up. Like the Murano was, or I can't remember, maybe it was the Rogue or the Murano. Like, it made like the list of top 10 sold vehicles in the United States. But yeah, they got a lot of stuff they got to do. So they're going to try to increase sales in North America by 330,000 units. So, and then putting $200 million towards an integrated customer experience. So it's so they're trying to get back in the game there a little bit. Good luck, Nissan. I started my career with Nissan.
My first new car was a Nissan Pathfinder.
Yeah. Oh, I love those too. That body style that you had, those were. It was funny, even when I was selling
$399 a month.
Yeah, but even when I was selling Infinities, like those early '90s Pathfinders, like every time we took one in on trade, they would never make it past the trade line.
Great.
So, yeah. And then the other thing that's really interesting is, so the EPA's got like this proposed thing where we're going to reduce emissions in the automotive industry all the way up to 2030. And after they came out with all these guidelines, SEMA got to work. SEMA, the sports car people.
They're also a lobbying.
So they lobbied, and they literally got the EPA to completely reduce their stringent requirements for 26, 27, 28, and 2032.
So they just paid a little money and
somebody got greased. But who knew that SEMA was a juggernaut? So good job, SEMA.
More than NADA is doing.
More than NADA. So yeah, that's what I'm saying is I like the activity, but their reasoning was that essentially that shops can't keep up with the changes as fast. So there's going to be an issue with repairing cars that had different requirements. So I like that. But the manufacturers now have extra time to meet their future emission requirements. And that is everything in the news.
Let's talk about best in show hiring practices. I know we could talk about this for an hour and a half.
One of the most important things I think that you could discuss.
Most of what I see out there, Christian, and I see a lot, is kind of like the world that we live in today. There is more of an equality of opportunity versus an equality of outcome.
Okay. Can you unpack that for me a little bit?
People think that showing up is the job, not the outcome of what the job is meant to be.
So it's an extension of the participation ribbon era.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm a service advisor and you hire me as a service advisor. That's basically what it is. It's not about me being a good service advisor. It's not about me collecting customers. It's about me, I'm entitled to certain things because I showed up. Versus, hey, I'm going to show up and my role is to create an outcome. Right? Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
What do you think about that? So equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome.
I feel like it's a recipe for disaster. The sites are too low.
I think that's how most people hire.
Yeah.
And so we get asked questions all the time. How do I fix my culture? How do I make people happy? I'm always like, please give me an example when you made somebody happy. Like you hold a gun to their head and
be happy.
Most of, and I've kind of learned this, most of the high performing teams that I've either been around, I've created and been a part of, or that I've studied. And I think that new Dynasty show, the miniseries, docuseries about the Patriots, is kind of a story in line with what I'm saying. It's the island of misfit toys in the sense, and I'll kind of give you two pivotal moments in my journeys that made me stop for a second when you're talking about hiring and reanalyze the idea of just you making a decision on the interview in front of you versus a lot of other things. So the first one was we were doing some leadership training with a very popular leadership trainer in automotive, and he came out with, we were buying all his stuff. I would have him come out and talk to our team, all of that. He partnered with somebody who did these personality profiles.
Okay.
So it was like a pre-hire personality test that was supposed to help you determine whether people were right for the job or not.
Okay.
And they were selling these in like packs of 25. So
So 25 tests you bought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, and I'm sure he was affiliate for him or something.
Sure.
And so there was this moment where I was like, well, if he's saying it, let's just do it. And then I started to think like, okay, but he's an affiliate. He might just be doing it for the money. They were kind of expensive. And so I was like, hey, what I want to do is let's test our top salespeople, our top advisors, our top techs, and look at where they are in this thing. Now, according to the profile, we would not have hired most of them if we used that personality test to determine.
And not most of your people, most of your good people, right? Like the best,
We're
the top
talking about,
tier.
we were number one in the country, if not the world, in new car sales. We were doing crazy numbers.
Yeah.
So I don't know, there wasn't a week that went by where we weren't touring people through that because people came from all over the world to see what we were doing, right? And so we ended up not doing those in a sense because we were like, oh, our process is better than what this thing is in a sense. And our process was, if you didn't have a track record of outcomes, a very strong track record of outcomes, go somewhere else and get a track record of outcomes and come back. Because this is the big leagues. So we would tell people all the time, like, go work somewhere and be number one on the board and then come back. But right now you're number 6, and number 6 there is number 22 here. Like,
right.
I mean, we're not looking for number 22s, right? And so that made me kind of analyze this whole, like, top performers. Is there a formula? Now, the second one is, early on when I started this company, we were doing our top dog competition. So the advisors all compete against each other. We were a much smaller company, but we had an annual event, an annual top dog, and all of the advisors would come. That doesn't really happen anymore, but back then, all the advisors would come. We would have it on a Saturday, Sunday. And you're talking about 70 advisors, and these are all the top ones in the comp.
Yeah, you didn't get to come unless you'd won the competition, if I remember correctly, right? At first?
I think maybe it was close to that. Yeah, it was something like that. The advisors were very engaged in that, and they also year after year would look forward to coming and seeing the advisors they were competing with. It was a very fun thing. We did this thing where we would have the advisors kind of do this round table for us, where all the managers and myself would talk about what we're going to have the top performing advisors in a room. What questions should we ask them so we can learn and improve? And, so we would have a series of questions that were prepared and ready to ask all of these advisors, and I remember very, very distinctly looking at that group of advisors and kind of like going, I have never seen a group of more introverted, awkward, not really social people ever. Like, they're not outgoing. Like, you think a top advisor's an extrovert. They were all very quiet and introverted. They were all very shy,
Quirky.
yeah. very self-aware, and like, and you're talking about advisors that put up huge numbers. Like, some of those advisors had literally perfect CSI month in and month out.
Yeah, like for a year.
Numbers you wouldn't even believe, right? Like, we're talking about advisors that were writing 400 and something thousand in parts and labor in a month. Just nutty numbers. If you met them, I think if I put any one of those in a room, and you can think of some of them right now, you can imagine who I'm talking about. Awkward.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do good in a job interview. They would almost be shy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to taking care of their customers,
they've got a system.
They got a system. They make friends. People trust them. They like them. They come back, right? They're a part of the family. They're a part of the conversation when it's time to buy their next vehicle. Like, they're in on that conversation, right? And so if you're trying to build a team of best in show, and by best in show, what we're talking about is high performers, the environment feels a lot different than what you think it feels like. It's a lot quieter. It's a lot more awkward and weird. Nobody's super happy coming to work every day. There isn't this like, oh, everybody, it's a party every day at work like people think or they want or they crave. I don't know. I don't know why managers say, how do I make my people happy? It's irrelevant. How do you get them to do their job?
That's the right question.
Yeah, how do you get them to be passionate about doing their job, not make them happy? You can't, but you wouldn't perceive anybody to be happy. You would perceive them to be focused.
Yeah, they're not unhappy either, right? They're just they're business.
Yeah. But if you're focusing on their outcomes, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah. And the thing that I noticed about that group is they were always looking for another advantage. None of them were happy with where they were at.
Well, they love sharing ideas.
Yeah.
How are you doing this? How do you log? What do you say when you
Yeah.
call? They would talk about technique.
Right. But it was anytime you were the fly on the wall and you were just listening in, they were always talking about an experience or a thing they're doing or something they want to try next or whatever it was. But they weren't talking about the Bears, right? They were literally, they got them all together and they started talking about work.
Okay. So then, and I'll just give you a couple clues, but performers behave in a certain way, they talk in a certain way, and they answer questions in a certain way. And you don't need a personality test or anything to kind of tell this, but I'll just give you two quick examples of ways I would start to determine whether somebody was a performer or not, and I'll use an advisor and a tech as an example. Okay? So, for an advisor, the easiest way to tell if you have a performer or not is when you're interviewing them, say how many techs are going to follow you.
And if it's more than 3, you got a winner.
Well, if it's 1, you might have a winner. It's the guy that looks at you and is like, what? That's what scares me.
Yeah.
Because good techs are going to follow good advisors, right? Best indicator. Now, with the technician, the question that I like that kind of tells me if somebody is a performer, I want to see their sheets or their time card, that sort of thing, payroll, depending on the state you're in, you can't always ask for that. But some sort of proof of performance. But the thing that tells me a lot about a tech and whether they are teachable and they learn and they're self-aware is tell me about a recent comeback and how you handled it. And if they say I don't have comebacks, they're a liar.
Yeah, that's the scariest answer.
Yeah. But if they talk about how they took responsibility, how they fixed it, how they learned from it, that's somebody that there's a start of something there.
Yeah.
If they're self-aware and they can admit that they make mistakes, that's way easier to deal with than somebody who is trying to give off this mask of perfection, right?
I like it.
So, just to recap where we're at so far is if you want to build a best in show, top dogs, high performing team of advisors and technicians, the first thing you have to understand is they're not extroverts, they're performers. And the only way to tell if they're a performer is history, past performance, right? That's really the way. Now, the second thing that happens is we have managers that aren't performers trying to build a team of performers. And the glitch in the matrix is that this thing is like a mirror.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you're going to hire people like you that you like. You know that self-esteem book that we're reading? It says in there that you are just, it's a natural course of evolution that you are attracted to people with the same self-esteem that you have. Right?
That makes sense.
Broken people are attracted to broken people. High performers are attracted to high performers. And lumpy Charlie Browns in the middle are attracted to lumpy Charlie Browns in the middle. Right? It's just what it is. And so you're a mirror, and you are attracted to, in an interview or in recruiting or whatever, you're attracted to people like you. If you're not a performer, that becomes a problem. If you haven't done anything incredible, if you're the one saying, oh, it's my market, it won't work, you're making a bunch of excuses. What were we saying on the other show? Like the guy that says, well, I'm not good at this or I'm not good at that, right? I'm not good at teaching. I'm not good at games. I'm not good at hiring. I'm not. Those are all indicators of somebody who doesn't see themselves as a problem solver, somebody creative that is going to create an outcome no matter what. It's somebody that gives up easy. It's somebody who learned helplessness is built into your operating system. That's how you think, in a sense. You give up very, very easy. You expect life to be a disappointment, in a sense. So that mirror thing is you're going to attract what you are. And so if you're not a performer, it's really hard for you to attract performers because you wouldn't recognize it if it was sitting in front of you.
Yeah. And then the performers know you're not.
And so then you revert to I like them. They know Reynolds and Reynolds. They know whatever. Like it's all about ease of integration, which is equality of opportunity. Right?
That's right.
It's not about an outcome. It's not about performance.
It's just about how easy is it to get them. Can they write ROs tomorrow? They don't have to be good ROs, but can they write them tomorrow?
Yeah, because we're just grabbing the cat by the tail and letting us drag us around.
Yeah, can I give you a different approach? It's also a sports analogy, but I've definitely done this in my career, is a little more like the Moneyball thing when I'm recruiting, where I think about the unit and what can they produce, and that sometimes you need someone with this skill set that fits this thing, right? Do you remember the thing about Moneyball? What was it they were always trying to when they were looking at players? What was the main thing?
Was it on base?
Yes, they get on base. So the Oakland A's essentially have this, tiny little minuscule payroll in comparison to like what the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Cubs have, and they've got to they don't have room in their roster to miss. So everybody's got to be a really good, big, valuable part of the equation, right? So I can tell you that I've gone through with, when we've added coaches in the past, is that, what role do they fill? That also could be effective, too, in terms of thinking about the outcome at the end of the day. But the Island of Misfit Toys, like anytime, the Oakland A's got players, they were pulling people that had not necessarily exactly performed, like they weren't all-stars on other teams, but they shone in the system that the Oakland A's have. Mm-hmm. So if you have a really strong system, you can help people to overachieve. So that was kind of one of the ways that I've also, I think that at the end of the day, past performance is an indicator of future performance, but like if you're trying to, if you work from the results backwards, you can also recruit some talent that fits.
Yeah. And so just thinking about that and kind of bringing this all full circle and to me, that's really focusing on the outcome. Like the outcome is I need somebody who really is good at CSI, really good at whatever it is, right? But that is an outcome-based approach to things. But not the biggest lesson here is if you leave it to your feelings and your emotions from an interview in the box, most of the time you're going to be wrong. And if you're not a performer, if you're not number one in the country in CSI for your brand, you're not constantly growing and putting up numbers, and you're just flat and just maintaining, you have to understand that the mirror effect is in play, that you probably wouldn't recognize or be attracted to a top performer anyways. You're looking for a bunch of versions of you because that's comfortable. And it isn't about being comfortable. It's about hiring people better than yourself. It's about recruiting people that you wouldn't normally recruit in places you wouldn't normally recruit, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think that's the secret, is to focus on the outcomes and to realize that you might not be the person you're trying to clone.
I think in most cases, if you just put a bunch of yous in your business, it's going to be one-dimensional. You want a little bit of a mix.
So that's my thoughts on that.
I like that a lot.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.